This hill separates West Los Angeles with the San Fernando and Van Nuys area. It's a major hill. And Van Nuys area. It's a major hill. Now out there is the Hollywood Hills out there and the Hollywood sign. And then as we pull back, this ridge separates West Los Angeles with the valley. It's Encino. These are very expensive homes. It's an affluent area. And just above Ventura Boulevard and just east of Beverly Glen. It's an area that a lot of entertainers live in, a lot of real estate people. These homes were built about in the 1960s. And in fact, if you were back east and you recall the major Bel Air fire that we had, it burned through this area into Bel Air. Bel Air would be just south of the position that you see right now. And these two homes went, and there are quite a few other homes in the area that sustained damage, including broken chimneys.
An idea of what the temperature will be tonight. We are very blessed to have temperate climate right now. And there was a warning about what some people might think about doing, like putting in a barbecue, bringing it inside. That is very dangerous.
The fumes from that are deadly.
Yes.
And every winter, not so much in this part of the country, but back east, every winter, where people run out of heating oil or whatever, have their electricity turned off, you see a number of people who die of those fumes from a barbecue pit that they bring inside the house. One of the problems is in parts of the valley, people have been asked to boil their water. Well,
how do you do it?
There are places where natural gas has been cut off, or where you've had to cut your own gas oven, and how are you going to do that? It's going to be a long, difficult night.
There is another way that you can purify water if you haven't stored up water, and that is by using the purification tablets. The chlorine also can help by putting in a little bit on that.
One of the questions people are going to be asked is, what about my insurance? How will I get that covered as we look at the seismocam there and see another small one being registered right now? Joining us here now is Mary Crystal, the Director of Communications for Western Insurance Information Service. Thank you very much, Mary, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What should people do? Should they call their insurance company immediately? Do you have special lines set up?
Certainly, if you know that you have earthquake insurance coverage, after you've made sure that your loved ones are safe and you've started to clean up the debris, you will want to call your insurance agent or company representative. That's one of the first things you'll want to do. If you're not sure that you have earthquake coverage, call your insurance company anyway and get that information. A lot of companies have set up 800 numbers. You'll start seeing those in the newspapers tomorrow, hearing about them on the radio. Make use of them.
This is something we can think about now. Still, people are worried about emergency situations, but in the next few days, once you get your home and your life settled a little bit, that's the time when they will be wanting to call.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. People are, in many cases, going to need money pretty quickly, and yet they're really not going to know the full extent of their damage for weeks to come, perhaps. Once they take money from an insurance company on a claim, are they compelled to regard that as a full and final claim? What if they come to a settlement early and they find out later on their damage is far worse?
Well, actually, Michael, there's what's known as additional living expenses that people can avail themselves of. They need to live in an apartment temporarily, buy clothing, whatever, if indeed they do have the earthquake insurance coverage. For those people that don't have earthquake insurance coverage, then unfortunately there won't be any insurance. Well, actually, let me qualify that. Depending on what kind of damage that they suffer, if it's in addition to that earth movement that is a result of the earthquake, still they need to contact their insurance company, and there indeed may be something in their policy that will help them. Won't be a full settlement initially. There will be a claim settlement process that they'll go through. So they shouldn't be afraid to accept a check.
They can get a partial settlement.
Exactly.
Without jeopardizing their final claim.
Absolutely.
What about the people that have had damage and are worried about future damage? Once they have been, had earthquake damage, are they going to have a hard time getting earthquake insurance in the future?
Well, it'll take them a while. It won't be that they cannot get earthquake insurance coverage, but for obvious reasons, we're having aftershocks. We'll continue to have aftershocks. They may not be able to get the earthquake insurance immediately. It may take them a little while. Companies may not be writing earthquake insurance coverage in our immediate area simply because we're still feeling the movement and there's still a potential for damage.
Is there a moratorium on not writing a policy during the period of aftershocks? I mean, some aftershocks can go on for months, even years.
Well, there are moratoriums called, that's correct, for a limited period of time. Won't be many months or years, and it probably will only be focused on the Southern California area that's experienced the earthquake, and so Northern California residents won't have to worry about that. But again, it's for obvious reasons. We're still shaking and there's still a potential for damage.
Should they, before they come to some kind of a settlement with their claims adjuster, should they have an expert come in and check it independently?
Well, their claims adjuster will make sure that, to the best of their ability, with
their claims adjuster, let's not forget, represents the insurance company.
Absolutely, but it isn't the insurance company's desire to make it difficult or awkward for you to settle your claim. So they'll try to be as fair with you as possible.
Okay.
Earthquake insurance is notoriously very, very expensive. That's why a lot of people don't have it. Mm-hmm. Is there any kind of guarantee that people can get it at a reasonable rate?
Well, we're hoping that the federal government will take notice of the fact that earthquake insurance, like flood insurance, is a risk that can be spread out over a broader base of the population. Certainly we in California have a special risk when it comes to earthquake, but earthquakes do occur all across the country. So hopefully if we can get the federal government to approve a proposal that's pending that would include earthquake and other kinds of catastrophic losses, then it will be more affordable for everyone and more people will buy it.
In California, we have what's known as the FAIR plan to protect people in dry, brushy areas from fire damage. Are you suggesting that perhaps we could have something like that at the federal level for earthquakes?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Something we'll be looking at in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank
Mary
you for having
Crystal,
me.
Director of Communications for Western Insurance.
All right. Now, let's see. We have Paul Jackson in the newsroom right now with an update for us, so let's go to him. Paul?
Thank you, Michael and Linda. As we move into hour number 12 since the quake first hit, here's the very latest. 26 people now confirmed dead, 21 from quake destruction, 5 people dead of heart attacks during the quake. More than 70 buildings have been destroyed by fire triggered by the quake that burst gas lines and sparked blazes. 650,000 homes lost power when the quake hit. Many still do not have electricity back. Now let's update you on the water situation in the San Fernando Valley. DWP is telling us all water will be cut to the San Fernando Valley by the end of the day because of a water main break that is badly damaged from the quake. Towns affected are Sylmar, Pacoima, Sunland, Tujunga, Sun Valley, Chatsworth, Reseda, Winnetka, Northridge, and Porter Ranch. DWP officials say they have no idea when water will be restored. Now, here are some phone numbers for you for emergency information. The American Red Cross, the phone number there in the 213 area code, 739-5200. That's area code 213-739-5200. And for the Department of Water and Power, simply dial 800-DIAL-DWP. That number is 800-DIAL-DWP. Quick update on the school situation for you. All 800 LA public schools will be closed tomorrow for damage information and damage inspection, rather. The same in Culver City, all schools closed there. The school district in Compton, however, telling us they will be open tomorrow. Also, UCLA will be closed tomorrow for classes and public programs. Administrators and staff are asked to show up to report in and help clean up the mess there, if any. UCLA Medical Center is in full operation. The campus did sustain damage, but we're told nothing extensive. Our folks at Pac Bell want us to pass along this information to you. They're asking you all to limit calls to the 213-310-818 and 805 area codes. Now, if you do make a call, be patient. It may take a minute to get a dial tone. Now, if you actually click the receiver, we're told that actually delays you getting that needed dial tone. That's the latest from the update desk. Back to you folks in the
Paul,
studio.
some good information. Just if I could ask you a question to clarify again, the people that are being told that their water will be cut off and that they have to boil any water if they do use it from the tap, those are the DWP customers, mostly in the San Fernando Valley area, not in the
Santa Monica,
Exactly.
or Central Los Angeles.
At this point, it just simply affects the San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
Okay, DWP customers only, but all of us, thank you very much, Paul. Very good idea for all of us to conserve as much as possible. Only so many resources out there right now.
Right. We're going to take a look at some of the pictures that we have been collecting throughout the day. First, we're going to go to Pacific Palisades area. You're looking at the corner of Chautauqua and Pacific Coast Highway and Channel Road, where they all converge there. Some of the buildings right there
A beach
hosts some.
cafe.
Yes, there's a few restaurants in that area, a bathing suit shop, small businesses along that area where they received some structural damage. Those are old buildings. Now,
Landmarks.
yes, they've seen a lot of change. Different restaurants go in and out of those buildings, but they are well occupied. They're right there in a very popular part of the beach, the state beach, right there along Pacific Coast Highway. Now, going north from Chautauqua
Northridge.
up to Temescal, the PCH was closed.
Yes, there is the Kaiser Permanente building. That is not an inpatient facility. We were very lucky there that's an administrative office, and they do some clinical work there also. We were very lucky this morning that this hit when it did. Had it hit a few hours later, that building would have been packed. As it was, only the night watchman was scheduled to be there at 5:30. As it turned out, not one person that we know of was inside that building. So
How lucky that it hit at that time.
Oh, in so many ways.
Again, in Northridge, this is the site where an apartment building just collapsed onto its first floor. A car was crushed there. We know that there were a number of injuries and fatalities where this particular apartment did collapse. It was a 3-story structure, which was pancaked to 2 stories.
We're going to go to Pacoima next. And here you see the Pacoima Dam up above there. In fact, you're having a hard time seeing it because of all the dust and the smoke that's come up from there. But the fact is, the water level is fairly low there. And we were told by a structural expert earlier in the day that in 1971, this dam withstood far more damage and shaking than we had this morning at 4:31. And so they don't expect any problems there, despite all of the dust being generated from the aftershocks there in Pacoima.
Bob Tur took those pictures earlier today. We understand he's with us live right now. Bob, where are you? Oh, no, okay,
No, we don't
we'll
have
get him later.
That was footage taken this morning before daylight, obviously just a short time afterward in Sylmar, where natural gas breaks set these mobile homes on fire. There were close to a dozen homes that were just razed in no time, but miraculously no injuries. Now, we're looking
yes,
down.
I think we do have
That is
Bob Tur.
the visibility quite bad with all that smoke there.
Yeah, this is Bob Tur, Chopper 2. We're along Pacific Coast Highway, and this is the old Charles Lawton home, and they lost the rear portion of their home in the earthquake. Let me zoom on down. The fog is very thick, but down in that soup, there's a couple of bedrooms and a kitchen. It went right over the side. We're at Chautauqua and Pacific Coast Highway. This was Charles Lawton's old home, the old movie star. He passed away, but it's been handed down to several new owners. And through the years, they've been losing more and more of their backyard because of the rains. Well, this morning's earthquake did what the rain could, took out the backyard and the bedroom portion. Now, as we make a left turn, this is Pacific Palisades, by the way, up here in the Palisades, and the fog has been moving in very, it's been very thick. We'll make a tight left turn here, and I want to show you West Channel Road. Now, St. John Smith is a famous volleyball player. His restaurant is down in the center of the picture. You can't really see it now, too much fog, but there was considerable loss. And one of Mayor Reardon's favorite restaurants, Giorgio's, is down there as well. That has sustained extensive damage as well here at Channel Road, West Channel Road in the Santa Monica Canyon area. There was a lot of damage. Here we go. Go straight ahead, straight ahead. And there you can see the damage to some of the restaurants along this route. It's kind of murky because of the fog, but they sustained a lot of damage, including partial roof collapse, the facade caved in, and just numerous cracks in the foundation. Pacific Coast Highway has been blocked off. There you can see a Caltrans worker blocking off the northbound lanes of PCH, or really westbound lanes of Pacific Coast Highway, there at Channel Road. And this has been shut down. Santa Monica shut it down at the McClure Tunnel. This is because of the unstable hillside. Every aftershock brings down more dirt, and Caltrans workers throughout the day have been working to clear the PCH, clear the road. But unfortunately, it's very unstable, especially when we get 5.5 aftershocks so many hours afterwards. So that's the situation here.
All right, thank you very much, Bob Tur. We're going to go for another aerial view, this time from Air 2 over Granada Hills. Mark Dunn has that view for us and the explanation of just what we're looking at down there. Mark?
Chris, we're over the It's a condominium complex, Michael, just below the Odyssey restaurant, which is adjacent to the 5 freeway or the 405 freeway going up to meet the 5 freeway. You can see the freeway behind it there. It's closed down, obviously. What we have here at the end of this row of condominiums is we have a collapsed building that we believe, so we have Fire 6 right now is checking for us. The helicopter you see circling below. This fire, we believe, is new flame, new fire from the aftershock, the large aftershock that you all experienced in studio. We had no engine companies on here when we arrived, and now we have at least 2 or 3 engine companies. They're trying to. Right now we're getting confirmation that the fire is possibly the result of an aftershock, the 5.0. That just goes again to show you must check your gas lines. Every time we go through one of these experiences, you can see now that this whole line of condominiums here is threatened by this fire. We hope that the fire department has enough resource to get up here and put this fire out before it spreads through the rest of this complex right here.
Mark, can you tell us exactly where that is in Granada Hills? Do you have the street names or anything like that?
Well, this is, if you look right off to the right of the screen here, this is the 405 freeway running north, and it joins up to the 5 freeway right there. So if you look down right below me, the intersection, just past the skid of the helicopter there, the intersection of the freeway and the street below, that is Zelza. That's where we saw it off to our left, which would be to the west. That was where Balboa and Zelza was earlier. That's where they had the flooding and the gas main problems. So this is all up in the north end of the valley. This is just adjacent to the Van Norman Reservoir.
Mark, can you tell, is there a lot of structural damage to those condos, or is it too difficult to tell from that distance?
Well, it is a little bit difficult, Mike, but I think, to me, it looks like the condos that would be on the left of your screen have suffered some sort of structural damage, a collapse of some sort. Maybe you can tell from the picture in studio in color. Does that look like the back of that building is leaning down a little bit?
Yes, it does, and that's the reason I asked the question. I couldn't tell if that was an architectural design or if that indeed was damage, and now that you have zoomed in, it looks like those buildings have incurred quite a bit of damage, and I wonder if people are still in them. I doubt that if they are.
Well, when we arrived on the scene here, we had Fire 6. You see that helicopter go through your picture now and again. He was on scene because he came over here in response to the smoke. Now when we asked what he was doing here, he said he was responding to a collapsed building. So now if this collapse is also part of the 5.5 aftershock that we're reporting now, it's entirely possible, because the smoke and the fire obviously that's happening inside this building wasn't going on before then. So we came up here on the assumption that this is possibly new damage caused by the 5.5 aftershock.
Mark, it's an incredible example of the cumulative effect of an earthquake and its aftershocks. The 5.0 aftershock that you're referring to, we felt around 3:30, and it was probably one of the largest of the aftershocks that we have been feeling all day long.
You know, the thing that strikes us about this picture is there seem to be no emergency personnel on the scene. There are no firefighters there on the scene.
And no people either.
No people. If this were simply a fire, that fire might have spread. Certainly there would still be firefighters on the scene. It's our feeling probably there was damage from the initial jolt, further weakened throughout the day. Then the pretty big aftershock we felt around 3:30. Was that around
Yes.
around 5 on the Richter scale?
That's what we were told.
That might have done in the end of that building, and indeed, from the looks of things, from up here, some of the other buildings are leaning, and probably the next attention those buildings get will be from a bulldozer.
Right. Very precarious situation there. Buildings leaning into each other.
The situation here in an area like this also, Mike and Linda, is that there's only one road or 2 roads in and out of this area. So what you have, much like we saw in the trailer park scenario in Laguna Beach, once a fire does start, or once we have, accelerating fuel or accelerating fire through fuel, if there is a large amount of people at home at this point, we're going to see a mass exodus from these condominiums.
Right.
Yes,
Now, Bob, Mark, we're going to see what Bob Tur has for us in Chopper 2. He's in, Bob, it looks like you're in the Santa Monica area along Palisades Park. This is St. John's Medical Center in Santa Monica. You zoomed in a little bit earlier, and it looked like you were showing us some cracks in the building. Can we see that, or what is it that you know there?
Well, St. John's Medical Center was not immune from the earthquake. I want you to take a look at the floors here. This is part of some structural damage that the building sustained. Now, we understand part of it's the facade, and a lot of it's structural as well. They've had engineers through the building all day long. I'm going to take a pan over here. There you can see some additional cracks running through the structure, running through this side. And when we come around to the west side of the structure, there you'll see a lot of damage to the outside facade. Hopefully it did not extend into the structural support beams of the building.
Do we know if there were any evacuations or anything from that hospital?
Yes, initially there were. In fact, patients on that side of the hospital have been shifted around, and of course they're canceling elective surgery and only handling emergency cases at this point, trying to clear the hospital and make sure that the engineers go through this structure and take a very close look and make sure that it is structurally sound.
That's a landmark in Santa Monica, the St. John's Hospital, a very well-known hospital in this country. And also there's another important hospital nearby, too, the Santa Monica Hospital. Do we know anything about that one?
Santa Monica Hospital is a newer structure. It did quite well from what we understand. This is St. John's Medical Center. My kids were born here. It's a very famous landmark, not for that reason. But also, we understand that Elizabeth Taylor was brought here for some sort of back problem.
Hip problem.
Hip problem. Hip, that's right. And she might very well still be in the hospital. Now, zooming back in, it looks like most of the damage was sustained on one of the lower floors, not the higher floors. And it looks like a compression style, compression kind of injury, if you will, to the building. And once again, the fire department's been here. They've left. Security has closed off some of the areas there. There you can see the security unit from the hospital. They've closed off the area. They've been canceling elective surgery. They have an emergency room that is still active from what we understand.
But it's your feeling and your understanding, Bob Turd, that they still have patients inside that building?
That's our understanding. Indeed, they do. They have several intensive care units still operating.
And a little while ago, as you zoomed in closer, I did see several people standing next to windows in there. So obviously there are people inside.
Oh, that's right. We can look on inside. There you can see patients inside looking out the window and looking out the window here. So it appears at this point, anyway, that patients are still there. But once again, what they do want to do is go through it with a fine-tooth comb. The other thing that Mark didn't mention in Air 2, we were over the valley, is that the Santa Anas are returning. And that could be very dangerous when some of these structure fires occur with the wood shake roof problem. Could possibly ignite additional roofs, and that is an ongoing problem, especially with those Santa Anas returning.
Another worry we wish we didn't have.
But Bob, you showed us some footage near the ocean a little while ago, and it seemed to be quite foggy. Is a layer of ocean air coming in as the evening hours approach?
Yeah, out here in the West Los Angeles area, the air is still, the temperatures are low, and we have a heavy marine layer. Now, out in the San Gabriel's and also in the Newhall area, we are getting some of those Santa Ana winds. We were buffeted quite heavily, and at the time of the 5.5 aftershock, we were able to see a lot of that dirt rising up, and then it was carried away by the Santa Ana winds. However, with all this particulate in the air, I'm hoping it'll change the weather situation somewhat and give us some of that still air and some of the cooler temperatures that we need. The last thing we need are Santa Ana winds, especially with aftershocks and the possibility of some gas fires.
Mm-hmm. We just got some information which I want to pass on as we look at these pictures of the St. John's Hospital and Medical Center in Santa Monica. We are told that Cal State Northridge, the classes are canceled to at least Thursday. Considerable damage on the campus of Cal State Northridge, right over the epicenter of the quake this morning.
There was some damage to other buildings as well, although the most graphic damage that we saw was to a fairly new parking structure which collapsed. Virtually the entire high-rise building collapsed. And again, how fortunate it was that it was 4:30 this morning when it did happen. That's a commuter school. Very few students live on campus, and those that did, we told, got out safely and are okay. Let's go back to Mark Dunn now. On the right of your screens there, we've zoomed in full. The Granada Hills damage there. Mark?
Mike, well, since we last spoke, we have been able to take a closer look at the west end of this condominium complex, and we think that at least these last 6, as we come around again, we'll be able to see at least these last 6 have been knocked off their foundation, possibly up to 10. At least these N6 and 2 in the middle there, making 8, and 2 more. As we come all the way around, if you can stay with this picture for just a minute, you'll be able to see, and as you take a closer look right in the center of the picture now, you can see where the foundation is let go underneath, and the roof of this building is collapsing as the building sinks. What Linda was mentioning earlier, the cumulative effect of these aftershocks is, I think, precisely what we're seeing here, which would make one wonder what would happen to the rest of this complex if we keep sustaining the magnitude aftershocks and temblors that we've been having this afternoon. I mean, this is large, and it's obviously all built under the same style of construction. So as we come around here, take one final look at this destruction, and we'll go off and try and find you some more pictures.
And we don't know if anybody is still inside those buildings. I would doubt quite seriously that anybody is. You look at the back there, and it's buckled, and the roof is buckled. Structurally, it's taken a major, major hit, although we do see some cars over there. I don't see anybody walking around the area.
Well, there are a few people up there, but we don't know if those are
workers.
who they are.
Well, you know, when something like this happens and you feel like you can reach safety by leaving your home, you're going to leave. But of course, you're leaving behind all your memories and all your valuables. So even if these people are evacuated, I'm sure there's still some lingerers trying to get in there and save what they can. But please be careful.
Yes, and now again, just to pinpoint exactly where you are, Mark, you are north of Zelza and Balboa in Granada Hills, in a complex that looks like there's only really one way in and out.
That's exactly right, Linda. Actually, we're just near the 405 and Zelza, and just north of that area.
Feeling another one here.
Yes.
We're feeling another aftershock, and there you see it. This is the large one. You can see the needle there really going wild on us.
Mm-hmm. And this is what is worrying people most right now, these strong aftershocks which create a cumulative effect and can shake loose some of the...
You see our lights slightly moving here. A couple of seconds ago, they were moving even more. We had a strong aftershock of 5.5. That's a serious earthquake, about a little over an hour ago.
Mm-hmm. You said you felt it in your car.
I was in my car at the time on Sunset Boulevard heading back toward the station, and at a stoplight, I felt it quite distinctly.
Mm-hmm. I felt it in the newsroom, and of course everyone dove under the desk. We've had some damage in our newsroom. The ceiling tiles have fallen, computers and television sets on the floor. That was from the first quake this morning.
I'm still feeling this. Mm-hmm. Can you?
Slightly, although I'm not sure whether it's my jattered nerves or what. A combination of both.
After a while, you start questioning yourself.
I think so. We also have seen how people are very reluctant to stay in their homes. Harvey Levin was talking to some people who actually took their sleeping bags and are camping out in parks tonight because of they know that their buildings have sustained some kind of damage, and they're not sure what. They feel insecure, and they feel safer staying together out in the open.
Bob Turr, again, up there over the Santa Monica area. I assume that's where you still are, Bob?
That's right. I want to show you, this is really one of Santa Monica's biggest problems. One of the bigger problems they had this morning. I'll zoom on in. There they had an apartment house fire. It was a gas leak and turned into a pretty darn good fire. There you can see the rear portion of the apartments burned away. You can see the contents burned. The fire department was here very, very quickly, right after the quake. But unfortunately, they weren't able to save the structure, the rear portion of this apartment building. Now, the radiant heat also caused a major fire problem with this structure as well, burning its contents and requiring the necessity of the fire department climbing up and cutting holes in the attic and releasing heat. So that sustained extensive damage as well. This apartment house, yes, go ahead.
Where exactly is this apartment house?
It's near California, approximately California and 18.
Okay.
Is the approximate location, give or take a block.
A lot of old apartment buildings in that area.
Bob, one of the concerns you raised a little while ago were the prospect of Santa Ana winds kicking up. That, of course, could be devastating considering all the small fires that have been burning from those gas leaks and the danger of winds spreading those. Maclovio Perez just joined us a moment ago in studio, and Mac, weather becomes a critical factor at this point.
You know, it really does, because although I don't think we have any problems with Santa Ana per se, anything strong, in fact, the onshore breeze is very prevalent. You can see the fog and low clouds beginning to creep in along the coastal areas, but Right now probably is the worst time to tell you that the rainy season is going to begin this week. We've been about 6 weeks of dry weather, and now we have high confidence that by Friday or Saturday, the rain returns to Southern California after a long absence. Normally, we would jump for joy. This is good. We need the moisture. But with what we've had with the fires in Altadena and Laguna and those areas,
There's another
another
one.
aftershock.
we're feeling it right now. And there you see it jiggling around. And boy, we feel them here in Hollywood. I've been here 15 years. I've never felt this building move quite as much as we have had today. But again, the point is that by the time we get to Friday or Saturday, we're looking for the return of the rainy season. There's probably 2 or 3 storms that are likely to affect our area in the early part of next week. Well, now consider the amount of people that have been displaced. Consider the amount of damage to roofs. Consider the amount of damage to buildings. All of these things will become a real problem, exacerbated by the fact that rains will probably be with us by the time we get to to Saturday. Yes, it continues rocking
So we
and
have
rolling here.
about 5 days to get ready for that.
Maybe even less. We don't have any offshore winds to worry about. What we're going to get is a slow decrease in the temperature as the sea breeze gets stronger and stronger. But the big pattern that has kept us on the warm side and the icy blast on the East Coast is finally shifting around and moderating, and a deep trough is going to set up right off the coast. And that means that there's pretty good confidence that we'll be back into a weather pattern.
What about
definitely Northern California, and more likely than not our area as well.
What about the cold? We heard some warnings earlier from Officer Gillis, downtown Los Angeles, telling people not to have any kind of open flame, not to light their fireplaces, not to put barbecues in the house because of carbon monoxide danger, even though they are feeling cold.